Victim offender mediation and conferencing represents a very promising pathway to restorative justice through dialogue. It has clearly been found to be a practical and time-tested approach that results in many positive outcomes for victims, offenders, family members, and the larger community. The process of victim offender mediation or conferencing has been found to be most effective when the following concerns are addressed. Victim-sensitive procedures that are respectful and offer choice, respectful treatment of those who commit criminal acts, voluntary participation by all parties, in-person preparation of the involved parties before they meet each other, use of a style of mediation that is dialogue-driven, not settlement-driven, often referred to as humanistic mediation, flexibility so that the process can be adapted to the specific needs and cultural context of the parties. In this extended training video, you will see two cases that highlight the importance of adapting the process to the needs of the person who was victimized and the person who caused the harm. In both cases, you will see segments of the separate preparation meetings and the mediation session. The first case involves just the victim, offender, and a single mediator. The second case involves other family members and a neighbor, as well as co-mediators.
Thanks, Rick, for coming by today after school. You know, when I talked to you last week on the phone, I had talked with your dad quite a bit beforehand, and I was hoping he'd be able to come today. I talked to him about what the program was about and why your probation officer referred you to it, but he made it pretty clear because of the double shifts I guess he's doing at the factory, there's just no way that he could come by with you. And he said you just should stop by, and I just wanted to make sure that you feel okay meeting today without your dad.
Yeah, well, that's fine. I mean, I'm glad that he's not here, and because, I guess he'd just make things more difficult, and so I guess I feel fine coming down here by myself.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay. I mentioned to you on the phone when I talked to you, I'm a volunteer that works with the local restorative justice program. And I'm not a court official, so I haven't read all the legal documents on what's happened. I mean, I know it was a break into a home, but what actually did happen, Rick, when that occurred a couple months ago?
Well, some friends and I, we were out drinking, and we were kind of getting low on cash, and we needed something. We needed some cash, and we wanted to do something. We wanted something to do, so we found a house, and my friends told me to go break in while they waited in the car, and so I went in through a window, and I took a TV and $200 in cash, and so that was kind of it. I mean, we needed something to do, and we needed some cash, and so that's what we did.
When were you arrested, and what was that like?
Well, they found out a little bit later, and they came and got me, and then they took me off to the station and questioned me there.
Mm-hmm. Was your dad home at the time? What was that like, getting arrested at home?
He kind of had just gotten home, and he was really quite upset, that they'd come, and, that I had gotten arrested and all that. He was really upset, though, that the other kids didn't get caught, too.
Mm-hmm.
So,
would you like to hear a little more about how the program actually operates?
Yeah.
Well, this would give you the opportunity to actually meet the person whose home you broke into and to talk about what happened, the impact on her, the impact on you, and it would give you the chance to express any concerns you have, questions that she might have, I'm sure she would have of you, and then also to look at developing a plan to repair the harm, what the court calls restitution, some way of actually paying back. How does that sound to you, the whole idea of meeting her?
I'm a little nervous about meeting her, and because it's just kind of nervous, just meeting her and for the first time and stuff. But I would like I would like to do, help fix what I did and kind of, pay her back.
I'm curious, would you think back at what you did? How are you feeling about that now?
I'm feeling really bad, kind of, I shouldn't have done that, if, we didn't have any money, then we should have just, stopped and gone home or something, and, I shouldn't have, accepted, them telling me to go in and take the TV and stuff. And just, I'm feeling kind of bad about it right now.
Well, when we meet, and I have to make this very clear, this depends on her interest in doing this too, just as you have choice in this process, Rick. The person whose home you broke into, they have a choice too. And that's just very important that we make it as voluntary as possible. But if we do come together, if she's agreeable, when we come together, everything we talk about is pretty confidential. It's meant to really stay among us. It's not like I write up a report on what everyone's saying and submit it to the court. The only thing that would go to the court would be an actual agreement, if that is reached. And the way the mediation sessions typically go, I would begin by making kind of an opening statement, just saying a few things about what we'll be doing and any ground rules for communication. And then the two of you would have an opportunity to kind of tell your perspective on what happened. And typically we begin with the person who was victimized to let them tell you directly, how it affected them. And then you would also have time to kind of tell your perspective. And then there'd be plenty of time just for questions or any concerns you have. And then later we'd talk about the actual losses and any ideas for repayment. I'm curious, Rick, do you have any thoughts about the repayment issue? How you would prefer to do that?
Well, I was kind of, thinking is maybe I could help her, do some work that she needed me to do, like, she needed me to help, dig something, or just kind of, do some work helping her, if that would be fine, or maybe getting a job and paying her, through my paychecks and through what I get. And
where are you working, Rick?
I'm working at a grocery store.
And so, what kind of take-home pay do you have on a weekly basis?
It's kind of about 30 to 70, depending on how
okay.
long I work.
Well, what you mentioned about your thoughts about maybe you could do some work for her, that is a possibility, but that's totally up to her. Some people who have been victimized don't want that. They don't want anyone coming back by their house. Others actually prefer that. But that's one of the things you'd be able to talk about in the mediation session. And whatever is agreed upon, it's up to the two of you. It's not like I'm not a judge. As a mediator, I'm just working with both of you to provide an opportunity to both talk about what happened and to repair the harm in whatever way possible. Rick, we encourage folks to have a support person with them during the actual mediation session, like a parent in your case, or a uncle, a coach, whatever. And same thing for the person who was victimized. Would you like anyone to be present with you during the mediation session?
No, just by myself is fine.
You're sure you feel okay, just you want to do it yourself?
Yeah, I'm just doing it myself.
Okay. The other thing I need to check out with you is I am going to go meet with the person whose home you broke into in the next few days. And is there anything that we've said here that you wouldn't want me to share with her in case she asks? See, I'm not going to go to her and give her a report like saying, Rick said all of these kind of things. But in case she asks something, is there anything that we've talked about that you would not want me to share?
I don't really think of anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, any questions, any other questions about the actual mediation session before we kind of wrap things up?
So it's just going to be like a mediator and us two?
Yeah, well, that depends if she wants a support person or not. I'll have to ask her. But it would be, actually, we'd be sitting at probably a table like this, and I'd be sitting here, and you would be here, and the person whose home you broke into would be over here. And I'll be beginning by saying a few things, and then very quickly it'll get into each of you telling each other your perspective and what happened and how it affected you. And typically, I'm very much in the background. I'm not talking a lot. This is really a time for the two of you to talk together. But I'm also there in case, there's any problems. If you have a hard time talking about certain things. And I'm there to make sure just that it remains a very safe place to talk.
Okay.
But it's also important that you realize I'm not there as an advocate. Just like I'm meeting with you, Rick, I also have to meet with her. And so I won't be taking sides with either of you. That's what a mediator is. I'll be helping you both be able to talk about it. And then I'll help with the restitution agreement, the plan to repair the harm. If you actually work out an agreement, we'll actually put it in writing, the specific terms of it, how much and over what period of time. And then both of you would sign it, I would sign it as a witness, and you'd each get a copy of it. And then a copy would go back to court, too.
All right.
Any other questions at all? Or?
No.
Okay. Well, thanks again for stopping by, and I'll call you back after I meet with the other person, whose home was broken into, okay?
Okay.
Thanks, Rick.
Yeah.
Hi, Sarah. Thanks for stopping by today. When we talked a little on the phone last week, I explained a little bit about the program, but we didn't have much time to. And I'm so glad you could stop by today, because this is a time for me to learn more about what actually happened first and how it's affected you. And then I can tell you, quite detailed what the program is and what it isn't. And then you can make a decision if this, is something you'd like to be involved in. There's no requirement whatsoever. The court thought this could be a helpful service to you, but it's totally voluntary on your part. So, I think I mentioned to you, I'm not a court official. I'm a volunteer here in the community. I work with the restorative justice program here, and I haven't read the legal documents of what actually happened. I know that it was a break into your home, I believe, a couple months ago, and but I don't really know all of the details. What actually did happen, Sarah, and the impact it's had on you?
Well, it's probably like any other break-in that happened, but it was just very different when it happens to you. And I've lived in that house for 25, 26 years, and nothing, I know my neighbors know me, and, it's like a small community. And I have my routine, I have my mother there with me, and we were just out for a while, and someone just came in there and just took things of mine, and I know that it's not a lot. I know that it's not a lot. It was $200 in a television, and I know that there are break-ins where there's a lot more taken, but this is just huge for me in my home as well as my community. That we've just been it's torn apart my home, and that it's just, I don't feel safe in there. My mother talks about moving. I can't afford to move anywhere. I don't want to move. And I know I can't get back all that was taken. And I'm not talking about the money. Everybody's told me that, well, insurance isn't going to pay for the money. You can get a TV, yada, yada. That's not the big part of it, for sure I can replace the money and I can, get another television set. But there's a part there that's just wrecked my home and wrecked that whole sense of safety and security that I don't know how to get that back. I don't know what I can do to get that back. I don't know what I can do to help my mother feel safe again. I can put locks on doors and get locks on the window, and she's talking about a burglar alarm, and I know those things aren't going to make her feel any more safe, because there's something that goes a lot deeper than just those, mechanical pieces, those hardware pieces that, it's just, insurance isn't going to take care of it. Police aren't going to take care of it. It's not going to be replaced. My neighbors feel bad for me. And so they even react to me differently, as if there's, something wrong with me now that, I've brought this into the neighborhood, brought this into the community, and, Mark, the window was broken, but the window's been broken for like 8 years, and it's almost was like a running joke, but it shouldn't matter, that the window was broken. It's just a hardship. It's not just losing things. It's a physical and emotional hardship for me, for my mother, for my little neighborhood community.
Well, as we mentioned in the letter that you received before I even called you, this program is run by a local community agency, and it's really meant to provide assistance to people like yourself who have been victimized by crime, to see if you want to actually enter into a meeting with the person responsible for it. Many people like yourself do want to do that. Some don't. That's why it's meant to be totally voluntary. And if that occurred, that would be with someone like myself called a mediator, being present. Just as I'm meeting with you now today, Sarah, last week I met with the young man who was caught and pled guilty to doing this. But my role as a mediator is not to take sides with either of you. I'm just working with both of you to provide an opportunity, if you want, to be able to talk about it and to see if you can develop a plan for repairing the harm. As you even think of the possibility of that, what kind of goes on in your mind? I mean, is there any interest? Are there questions you have? Are there concerns you'd want to express? Or?
Well, do I have to get an attorney to do this?
No, it's very important that if you have an attorney working with you, that they're aware of it and are supportive. But they would not be present during this, but it's important that they're supportive of it. This program was actually set up by our local courts, and the prosecuting attorney here in our town is quite supportive of it. So it's been around for a few years, but it is meant, it's your choice. I can't emphasize that enough. It's not like you got to do this and this is the only way you can get restitution.
Yeah. Based on what I've said, do you think it would be worth my while?
Let me explain a little more about what it is, and then you figure out if it sounds like it could be helpful. If we came together, we'd come together in a room around a table kind of like this, and I'd be sitting here, and the young man who was found guilty would be sitting over here. You'd be like this. And I would say a few things to kind of open it up and identify some ground rules. And it's very important that you realize if we do come together, whatever is said is pretty confidential. It's meant to really stay there. I'm not going to be writing up any kind of report saying you said this or he said this. The only thing that would be written up and go back to the court would be an actual, what the court calls a restitution plan, a plan for repairing the harm. And you both would get a copy of that too. if you work that out. So I would say a few things, and then what I normally do is turn to the person like yourself who's been victimized by this and give you the opportunity to look directly at the person responsible and tell them the impact. Most kids who do this don't have a clue of the impact it has on people like ourselves. It's typically just get in there, get out, get some property, money, whatever. So you would have an opportunity to tell your perspective, your story, how it's impacted you directly to them, to the young man. Then he would have time to kind of tell his perspective to you in his own kind of story, so to speak. Then you'd have plenty of time to ask each other questions. Some of the questions you've asked of me that I can't answer, only he can answer. Like why did he do this? Why did he pick out your place? And then later, we would talk about actual losses, and I'd want you to bring any documentation of losses, receipts for the TV, whatever, and to see if the two of you could work out a plan to repair the harm. And I'm not like a judge, I'm not making any decisions whatsoever. Any agreement that you're able to work out, it's very important that you feel it's fair and that he feels it's fair and that it's workable. And that's kind of how it flows. I'm not talking a lot during it. I'm kind of help get it going, and I'm there to make sure it stays a safe place for what we call dialogue, the ability to just talk with each other. But I'm not going to be talking a lot. It's really your opportunity to speak with each other.
At this point, I feel like I could say yes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I might change my mind down the road, though, as it gets closer. Okay.
Well, that's okay too. I mean, I would not encourage you to rush into something like this.
Okay.
I can honestly say that from quite a few years now of doing this, and actually the research I've read on it, a great many people that have been victimized have found this helpful. They report that it's less scary. It just kind of takes a lot of the power out of it to actually talk to the person who did it and to work out some way of repairing the harm. But I also want to point out some don't want to do it, and it's not meant for everybody. So, it's kind of thing, if you do agree to it now, if for some reason you felt really uncomfortable later, you should feel absolutely free to call me back. It's,
Well, okay. Well, I'll give it a try. Yeah.
Well, let me check out a few other things. I mentioned how we prefer to give the opportunity to the victim, person like yourself, first to talk to the person who committed the offense, because frankly, crime victims don't get much attention in the justice system, as you well know. Do you feel comfortable with that, with beginning to tell him your story?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The other thing is we really encourage support people. If you want to bring someone along, that's absolutely fine.
No, I'll probably come alone. I don't think my mother would be up for it, and I want to do this on my own. So
You're sure?
Yeah.
Well,
I want to do this.
If you change your mind, feel absolutely free to call me and we can make arrangements.
All right.
So, if your mother would want to come, that's fine, or any other support person. Sarah, are there any other questions you have before we wrap up, or just concerns, about the whole impact of this?
I don't think I've lived a sheltered life or anything like that, but this is by far, the worst thing that's happened to me. And that feeling not being able to protect my home, to protect my mother, and to protect myself has just been. It's a sense of just a feeling of just total violation that someone could do that and then just leave, just leave, and I can't get past it. It feels like it's just staying on me, like clinging to me, just like a filth, that I can't seem to get off of me, and it increases when I go back into my home, and my home is supposed to feel safe. So, I have a lot of hope for this process. It's not, if I didn't get anything back other than a sense of being clean again, I would be happy. The money would be difficult to replace, but I'd do it. The TV, I can borrow a television, but that to feel clean again, to feel secure in my home. That's what I want.
Well, and those are many of the issues that can be talked about when you actually meet with this young man. And I want to make it clear, we can't guarantee that this will fix all of those feelings, so to speak, that you have. But I can say with a great deal of confidence that the vast majority of people like yourself who have entered this process report to us afterwards that they feel safer. They feel less fearful of being re-victimized again. So those are the kind of things that can be talked about.
Well, that's what I want, If nothing, that's what I would like to have. And I don't expect you to guarantee it, but that's what I hope for.
Well, thanks again for coming to our office today to be able to talk about this. And
Yeah.
I'll be calling you in a few days. And, I did need to ask you, by the way, again, in terms of the location, any thoughts of where to you would feel the safest?
This building works fine.
Is it?
Yeah, I'd be happy to come back here.
Okay.
If it can be arranged.
Well,
Otherwise, I don't know.
We could arrange that. Sometimes people prefer going to a conference room in a library. A few even want to do it in their home, but it's really totally up to, it's your choice. So
This works for me.
this works, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Well, thanks again.
You're welcome. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thanks for coming tonight. I'm glad that we were able to make all of our schedules work out so we could get together tonight. Rick, this is Miss Andrews, and Miss Andrews, this is Rick Jenkins.
You can call me by my first name, Sarah. Sarah's my first name. You can call me Sarah.
As I mentioned to both of you when I met with you separately, I'm just going to be saying a few things initially now, and then we'll kind of get into talking about what happened and seeing if we can develop a plan for repairing the harm. I'm a mediator, as I pointed out before. Even though I met with both of you separately, I'm not here to take sides with either of you, and I won't be making any decisions for you. I'm here to simply facilitate a conversation among both of you. And the only ground rules that we have are that we listen to each other respectfully without interrupting, and that we speak respectfully to each other. I know that's difficult at times as we get in conversations. It's easy to interrupt, but let's try to be very mindful of letting each other complete their thoughts. Today's session will first begin with giving you both an opportunity to describe the impact of this on your lives. What happened with the break into Sarah's home. And Sarah, we'll begin with you as we had talked about before, and then Rick, you'll have an opportunity to kind of tell your perspective on what happened and how it's affected you. And then later, we'll be able to talk about the actual losses. Were you able to bring the one receipt with too? And then we'll see if there's a way that the two of you can figure out some plan for repairing the harm. And if you are able to develop what the court would call a restitution agreement, we'll actually write it up and we'll all sign it, and that'll go back to the court, to your probation officer. I won't be writing down all kinds of things and sending a report to the court in terms of what's said. This is meant to be a confidential kind of setting. What is said here is pretty much meant to stay here. The only thing that'll leave will be the restitution agreement if you both work it out. And if you do develop a restitution agreement, it's just real important that you both feel it's fair, that you feel it's fair, Rick, and Sarah, that you do. and that it's doable, that it's workable. Are there any questions before we kind of get going? No? Okay. Sarah, can you think back, I think it was a couple months ago, when your home was broken into? Can you tell Rick what did actually happen and the impact it had on you?
I can't begin to make you understand just how traumatizing this is, just how frustrating it is to be in my home and to realize that it's not safe. It's not my safe haven. You know, what I've done over the years to prepare it, you know, to be a place that's comfortable, it's just destroyed. You know, I was telling Mark that it's just, I go in there and I feel dirty now because of what you did. And I constantly ask myself this, why? You know, what was it about my house, or, you know, was it something about, you know, the fact there were 2 women there? Did you think that we were there? You know, why me? Why my home? Why my address? And I want to know.
Sarah, are there any other things you want to say before we kind of let Rick tell his perspective?
No. No.
Rick, when you think back a couple months ago with the break into Sarah's home, could you tell her, you know, what did happen from your perspective and how it's had an impact on you as well?
Well, that night I was out with some friends and we were out going around and we'd been drinking and we had done some stuff and we had run out of money, and so somebody suggested that, you know, somebody go in and break into a home and, you know, take some money and something, and they all, you know, told me I should, and so I did, and we just, you know, picked a house, and I went in, and, you know, I made out with the TV and the money, and it's just, I don't know, it's just kind of, you know, I feel kind of bad about doing it, and it's, you know, made me kind of feel, you know, I guess a little more nervous sometimes when, you know, I'm around my buddies and stuff, and I'm just sorry that I did this, that I, you know, went into your house and took the stuff, and I just kind of feel really bad and have this big sense of guilt, and just, you know, it's really changed me kind of that way.
Anything else you want to say, Rick, before we kind of open it up to questions?
Well, I'd just like to find out from Sarah if there's any way that, you know, I can help her out, you know, to help repay what I did and help fix what I, you know, did that was wrong, and just kind of, you know, any way I can help her.
We'll get to that in a few moments, but before we do, other questions or concerns that you want to share?
You still hang out with those other people? You said they sent you in there. Why'd they send you?
Well, they just kind of picked me. They all just kind of pointed to me and, you know, said I should do it. And
what did you think then, though? Were you thinking at all? I mean, they're going to send you in, and they're just sitting back there watching you. Did you think about that at all?
Not really.
I bet you'll think about it next time, won't you?
Mm-hmm.
Well. And was that an apology? Is that what you were doing before?
Yeah.
What are you apologizing for?
For breaking into your house and for violating you and your mom and for, taking the TV and for going through your stuff to find the money. And I'm just really sorry that, it was you and that it was your house. And
You should be sorry if it was anybody, not just me, but anybody. That's never right, and I want to make sure you understand that's never right. If you hadn't got caught, you wouldn't be sorry. That's what I'm getting, I want to get beyond this. So I'm going to accept your apology and hope that you never have to go through this again and that I never have to go through this again. But those things, I want the money. I want the money back. What would you do with it?
well, we used it to buy some more drinks and some stuff to do and eat, and
$200 in a night?
there's a little left over. And that was split up between the rest of us.
So you go in there, you break in, you steal the stuff, and then you come back and you divvy it out.
I got the biggest chunk of it all.
Well, that's good because I'm going to be wanting the full $200 back. And I doubt that you kept 200 of it, so you have a job?
Yeah. I work a few hours at a small grocery store.
And the TV? Where's the TV? I'd like to have the TV back.
I can get the TV.
Yeah? Where's it at?
It's at my house.
Okay. I'd like to have the TV back. If I get the TV back, then it'd just be the matter of the $200. You said you have some left from what you took?
Yeah.
Did you take anything else that I just haven't figured out yet?
No, that was it. That was all that I took.
So how much of it is left?
There's like 20 left.
$20?
I have.
Well, that's a long way from 200.
Rick, with your job you have now and the take-home money that you have, how long do you think it would take to pay Sarah back? Any thoughts on how much you could provide on a monthly basis?
Well, I could give her $50 a month, and then for the last month, give her the 20, the 20 back now, and then just on the last month or the first month, just pay her 30 to make the 50, and then just give her the rest of it, 50 a month.
I don't want to seem vengeful, but I do want to get this done with for myself and for my home. If Rick is capable, it's just my mother and I, and if you would come by, a few Saturdays and, rake our lawn. We've got a couple of huge trees on our property. I'm sure you saw them. And the leaves are, the lawn is full with leaves, and it's a lot of work for my mother and I to take care of it. And there just aren't a lot of kids in the neighborhood that are willing to do it. But if he would be willing to come by, say, for the next 4 Saturdays, and to rake, I'll supply the rake and the bags, and maybe cut the grass one more time. Just for the end of the season, I'd be willing to knock off $50, and then the other $150 you can just work out over the following 2 months, and you can just keep your $20 because like I said, I don't want him to be without money so that you have to go out and bust somebody upside the head or, get caught because your friends are saying they need money, so you just keep your $20.
Rick, how do you feel about that?
That sounds fine. I mean, I can come over and rake the leaves and...
Are you reliable? You going to show up on Saturdays?
Yeah, I'll show up on Saturday.
It doesn't matter what, it doesn't have to be Saturday, but 4 times, 4 consecutive weeks.
Okay, and then, I'll pay you the half of the 150 the 1 month and half the other month.
Okay.
Would, given the fact it's at the end of September right now, we need to write up the restitution agreement. If the first $75 was due by the end of the next month, that's October 31st, then the next 75 by the end of the next month, November 30th. Does that make sense? And then the 4 days of work, the 4 Saturdays, that would begin, I think you said you wanted it right away.
Yeah.
So that would begin this coming Saturday, October 3rd. And that would be essentially the equivalent of $12.50 each Saturday. You come out for a couple hours of work, assuming that's what it would take to rake your lawn.
And it'll get easier as the leaves, there are fewer leaves. I think the first couple of times will be a big chore, but the last 2, you can probably get it done in 15, 20 minutes, so I'm fine with that.
This will take me a minute to write up the agreement, because it's real important that we're very clear on this, and so that you each can get a copy, and then I can send a copy back to your probation officer. So this will just take a second.
So, Rick, you think you're a lucky person?
I wouldn't say lucky, but...
It could have been really bad. I hope it's good you understand that.
Yeah, I'm glad I didn't go to jail or anything.
Yep. You ever been in any other type of trouble?
No, this is the first.
What grade are you in?
I'm in 11th.
Yeah. What school?
South.
Yeah. Play any sports or?
No, but I may join like track or something.
Yeah. You should find something constructive to do with your time instead of just school and work. What do your folks think about this?
Well, my daddy's kind of upset about it.
I bet he is.
He was there. He had just gotten home there when the police had come to get me and stuff. And my mom was gone off at work, and she found out later on, and she was really upset, and she just went off on a tangent, and she just didn't like it one bit.
I bet it was hurtful for her, just like it was hurtful for me and my mother.
Well, here's a copy of the agreement, and I'd like both of you to sign it, and then I'll sign it. And I'll leave, I've got carbon copies here, I'll leave a copy with each of you, and then give one back to the court if you could.
What about the TV? When can I get the TV?
Excuse me, I'm sorry. I sometimes get caught up so much in this, I forget some of the details. That's very important.
I'd like to get it as soon as I can.
As soon as you can?
Yeah.
Rick, would it be possible even tomorrow to bring the TV to our office here? And then we'd be glad to bring it out to your home, even tomorrow or the next day.
When you get it, why don't you just plug it in?
Okay.
And if it doesn't work, don't bring it. We can just figure something else out. Okay?
Is that workable?
Yeah. I can get a ride and bring it, or I can drive myself and bring it.
Would that be later in the afternoon, like after school, I imagine?
Yeah.
Okay.
But Mark, just call me and let me know one way or the other, though.
Okay. I'm going to put that in the agreement that the TV will be returned by Rick on tomorrow's date. Okay. But we will also check it out.
I hope it works.
It should.
Okay. All right, good.
Okay, could you flip this over, Sarah, and sign there?
Okay, and then I'll see you on the 3rd, that Saturday, for the first leaf raking. And I'll have everything you need. I'll even have a pair of gloves for you so you don't mess
What
up.
time would you like Rick to come over?
I don't know what works for you.
How about 10 o'clock when I get up?
That's perfect. 10 o'clock.
Okay, Rick. Okay, I'm going to add 10 o'clock on Rick to
Okay.
make it very specific so
All
it's
right.
clear to everyone that
Yeah.
Rick will come over at 10 o'clock. Thanks for reminding me
Sure.
about the TV.
Yeah,
Sometimes
it's a big thing for my
lose some of
mother.
the details. 10 o'clock.
And she'll be there on Saturday, so you can
Here's your copy.
meet
Here's your
her.
copy. Well, thank you again for coming this evening.
Yeah.
You've both done a really good job of talking about this and figuring out a way of repairing the harm, and really appreciate your involvement in this program.
You know, I do feel better. You know, I hope to feel even more better. You know, but this was. You know, I probably feel better than I have in a long time, or since the break-in. So I feel like I'm coming around.
You know, I'm curious with both of you, when you think of how you felt first coming tonight and sitting at this table, compared to how you feel now, how is it similar or different now that you've talked?
Well, I thought that I would be more out of control. You know, I wasn't quite sure how I would react. But I mean, you're a really young person, and I realized that part of being young is making mistakes, but also hoping that you learn from your mistakes. You know, I was young and made mistakes, but you know, you have to really think beyond that moment. So, I mean, it's felt generally beneficial. You know, you know, I hope it continues to work out. You know, that's the next piece for me. So,
How about you, Rick?
Well, I don't feel as bad. I still feel bad for doing it, but I don't feel as bad because I got my apology out, and she accepted my apology, and I was kind of apprehensive, kind of nervous about coming because I thought she was going to be kind of out of control too, and so, and it just worked out better than I thought it would, and I don't feel as bad, but I still feel bad for doing it.
Well, thanks again for coming tonight, and we'll be back in touch shortly, okay?
thanks, Mark.
Thanks.